So here's today's lesson from a box. I have in my box 3 weightier matters. Weightier matter number 1, weightier matter number 2, weightier matter number 3. There goes the box. These are 3 books. And I'm not promoting and therefore put in my disclaimer, but this is called the Washington Court Rules book. Don't get too close. Weighty matter. This is called the God book. And this is called, for the choice I picked, Hermeneutical Spiralists. How to properly interpret. What do these 3 books have in common? They're heavy, man. They're just flat heavy. Here you have what it takes to be balanced. I'm being a little humorously sarcastic. We have to understand our laws. We have to understand his laws. It was inevitable, right? I'm taking paralegal. I might as well start doing analogies from laws, right? We have to understand his laws. But there is something very important about both of these books that is the reason behind a huge chunk of discussions and courts and opinion papers and things of all kinds that both of these generate. It's called rules. In the case of the Bible, we call them hermeneutical rules, rules of interpretation. In the case of law, judges write opinions and stuff, and they become the basis for future cases, don't they? Because they are the rules of interpretation. And as I've been sitting in law classes, the classes I've got, which is Civil Litigation 1, and I'm listening, you got to understand the rules. You got to go to this court before you go to that court. And this court only covers this area, and this court covers this jurisdiction. But that court covers this jurisdiction and that jurisdiction. But if you have a multiple case in a multiple number of states, a number of places, you got to have a court for this, and a court for that, and a decision for this, and a lawyer for that, and a defense for this. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there going, I've already been living that. I got to know what my highest court is. I got to know what my appellate court is. I got to know who my lawyer is. I got to know who the prosecuting side is. I'm the defendant up against a prosecuting attorney who's got a gripe. A plaintiff. He's got a gripe. Devil's got a he done me wrong song. Devil's got a God done me wrong song. Devil's got a whole lots of songs. But no matter how much we say, I stand on the law, I stand on the Bible, I stand on the... If we have not interpreted it right, and I wish I could erase this, for the law book, but, there's books that go with that. This is the book, sorry, I'm not necessarily endorsing or condoning this book either, other than the fact that it is one of my hermeneutical books on my shelf. When I have discussions with brothers, when I have discussions with myself, I always have to say, what are the rules I'm using to interpret this? If I'm going to interpret the Word of God, the laws of God, I have to follow the same judicial, act like a decent judge would, that the guys who have to do this do. You got to have some knowledge. You got to read your cases. You got to know your background. You got to know what the brethren do. You got to know how they've interpreted the book. You got to know how they've applied the book. You have to see what defense arguments the lawyers, otherwise commonly called men of God and so forth, do. We have to do both. And this is very weighty. This takes work. This, the average Christian could care less about. He just wants somebody to go up there and say, eh. But then when the judge makes a ruling, they want to be able to, oh, that wasn't a fair trial. That wasn't a fair trial. I don't agree with that. Well, did you ever study the law to know what it was about? Did you ever get the rules of interpretation to try to figure it out? Did you do the homework? Now, some of us are called to do the homework and some of us are not. I understand that. But all of us should be at least trying to understand, if we're going to stand up and quote the law, I'm using it as the law like David would, the law, thy word, the law. we should at least know how. So take your time, read some opinions, look up some statements. Don't be confused by the fact that this judge says the verse means this and that judge says the verse means that. That's no different than any other lawyer. But do be willing to carry the heavy books.